people who have a lot of woo want everyone to like them. They always want to be good with people. So they may not ruffle feathers. And so they might act in certain ways because they want everyone to like them. When Patrick and I don't have that problem.
No.
um,
God, it's so bad we laugh about that.
Did you know that competition is really low down for me?
I'm actually surprised about that.
I'm really not competitive.
I'm not saying you're like aggressively competitive or you hunt like that, but you like to climb. I don't mean the ladder.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to get things done.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Leadership and Motivation Unleashed. We are here today with a really interesting topic that Patrick and I talk about all the time. It's a topic that comes up frequently. I see it all over the news and also in the career workforce space. And it's about personality profiling and typing. How many of these personality tests or assessments have you taken in your career? Some of them are silly, like those Bored Panda ones that used to be on Facebook, where like you fill out a survey and they tell you like, what's your spirit animal or something like that. And some of them are more or less scientific than others.
I have to know what your spirit animal is.
I don't even remember. It was like some sort of animal that I had never heard of, which is why it didn't make sense. So, but I don't really believe in that stuff anyway. So there's a lot of that. Sometimes it makes people feel good. I don't know. There's so many of them that are more or less scientific than others. I think it's also really important as a leader, as an HR practitioner, as a manager, as a person who makes hiring decisions, that you don't use these personality assessments to make important decisions unless the assessments are validated statistically to make those decisions, because that could bring you results that you didn't anticipate. But what we'd like to talk about today is to share some examples of a few of them and to talk about, how they've helped us understand ourselves a little bit better and how it's helped us manage the teams that we work on. And so I'll start with the one that I like the best. So when I worked at Stryker, and I think we talked about this a little bit before in previous episodes, Stryker has always been a huge proponent of the Gallup Strengths assessment. And you probably have heard of the Myers-Briggs MBTI, which tells you if you're an introvert or an extrovert, if you're sensing or perceiving, if you're judging or something else. There's the DiSC assessment. There's a few others. The Gallup one is particularly interesting to me. I really like it because first of all, it is backed by science, right? Gallup is the organization that also does the polling, right? They are a legit operation, and it's all backed by social science. And when you take the Gallup Strengths, what they do is you answer a bunch of questions and you're supposed to answer them intuitively. Like you're not supposed to overthink. And of course, they plug in lots of different questions that are similar so that you can't really game the system. And it's so accurate, it's uncanny. But what it does is it spits out a list of 34 strengths that define you. And the top 5 or the top 10 are the most dominant types of strengths. The ones at the bottom are less dominant in how you interact. And what that really shows about yourself is that these are the strengths that you lead with, that you bring to work every day, that are at the forefront of your brain and of your activities. And when we understand those and when we talk about those with other people that they work with, they will understand our style. We will understand their style. And with a shared vocabulary, it can really avoid a lot of, why is that person acting this way? Why are they reacting this way? Why am I having such a hard time either being understood or getting my message across or getting things done when working with people who are very different than us? So Gallup Strengths is one of my favorites. And Patrick, I think you've had some really good experience with that one too, right?
Yeah, I've used it many times for a long time.
What are your top 5?
I don't remember the full 5. The top 3 are 1 was achiever, 2 was context, 3 was command, and I never remember the next 2. It's a horrible. I have it here somewhere because we started using it at US Bank, and it's really a sales tool. Like it's a salesperson thing. I didn't know that when we started using it. But back then, Gallup really honed in on revenue generating organizations for that, right?
Yeah.
But I was running a large operation at the bank, and I just liked doing different things. Like I just didn't want to talk about debit cards and ATMs and debit networks and gateways and banking all the time. Like I wanted to grow people. I've always wanted to do that. People have always tried to grow me to some success and to some of their frustration. But I like that. It's good brain candy. And not a lot of people get exposed to that stuff. I don't think employees and coworkers should just be treated like pieces on a board. Like you should water them. And StrengthsFinders was perfect for that. StrengthsFinders 2.0. So we bought everyone a book. And I just started with my leadership team at first. And at the time, I think there was 25 people on the leadership team that were managing hundreds of people beneath them. So why wouldn't you feed the leadership team so their teams could be improved? Like I always saw through my direct line into the teams. I always cared more about the teams than the leadership group. Doesn't mean I didn't care about the leadership group. It means I cared about the experience of the people with their fingers on the keyboard. I say it. So we started with the 25, and then we took it into everybody. Everybody got a StrengthsFinders book. It was hundreds of people. The bank kept asking me, "What are you spending this money on?" Because U.S. Bank was really close with their expenses. I'm like, I'm growing people. So I liked it. And then I would have them print it and put it on their cubes or in their offices. So when you walked into an office or a cube, you saw their strengths right away. It's an interesting thing to dialogue about, and people learn something about themselves. And they're like, wow, I understand why that makes sense. So, and I loved in the StrengthsFinders book, in the back was a tear-off assessment, and you log on and you do your assessment, at least back in the day. I don't know what they do now. I'm assuming it's somewhat similar. But the book had the definitions of all the strengths. And like Rachel said, all of those things get listed if you paid for the full report, but they usually just gave you the top 5 for the free version. But being curious about yourself is amazing. And, it didn't surprise me. I was a context guy because I love history. Rachel will tell you that. Like I cannot get enough history, whether it's Israel and the IDF, which is close to her heart, her homeland, and the military over there, I think is just so impressive. But our American Revolution, the Civil War, I'm genuinely interested in biblical history. Like I think it's so freaking amazing. My wife and I are watching The House of David right now, season 2. And I know it's Hollywood, so they add some stuff, but that whole thing's just fascinates me. But I think personal history is important. Like, why are those strengths my strengths? And then I like to weave in the generational impacts of that kind of thing. Like, I hung out with my grandparents all the time. So I was basically raised by traditionalists, very, liberal leaning with regards to the Tennessee Valley Authority, the whole Roosevelt version of the Democrat Party. And my grandfather was a World War II vet. So, of course, he was strong military minded, but he really liked the social program. So you don't even hear about that stuff anymore. Who are those people? But they blue dog Democrats, they existed. So my love of history and my fiscal conservatism and my strengths to like achieve and do well for my family, I think come from my grandparents. So being curious about not just what your strengths are, but where they come from, I think is important and will only hone you to be a better leader. Now, by the way, when we would do StrengthsFinders, I would say to everybody, because they're like, well, Patrick, I'm not a boss. Why do I need to be better at leadership and know more about myself? I said, you're a boss of something. Even if you're a single contributor, you're a leader. You got yourself to work. You're leading yourself. If you have kids, you're leading your family or your partner, or your spouse, or your parents, your coworkers. There's informal leadership and there's formal leadership. And to be a good to great leader, you should really know who you are. Because if you can't like yourself, love yourself, understand yourself, you can't do that for other people. And I believe, not to be corny, but I believe if you're going to spend so many freaking hours together at work, no matter what work is for you out there listening, you should be invested in the people around you. You should leave the people and the place you work better than what you found it. And I don't know how you do that without understanding yourself first. How can you help other people if you can't help yourself? Or how can you lead other things, people, projects without understanding what makes you tick? It's so deep. Like this topic is hours long of content. It's probably no one better to do it than Rachel. We should probably just do a Rachel podcast and I'll just watch her talk. That finding ways to lead people, places, and things cannot happen well if you don't know who you are. So I think StrengthsFinders is an amazing tool, and it's an amazing gift that Gallup has created for people to use it. And we put everyone in a spreadsheet. By the way, everyone's strengths ended up in a spreadsheet. We started picking people based on their strengths for special projects, not just because Johnny was good at their job. Like we looked at their strengths. Like I tried to actually use it in hiring, and HR freaked out. Right
I'll
there.
tell you
I don't know
what.
if you can see Rachel shaking her head, but she went there pretty quickly as an HR queen. But like I tried, and they were like, no, 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 you can't do that. But how amazing would that have been to be able to, if we're hiring for the right slot?
Yes, and there are versions of it. So there are versions of it that are validated for hiring. I remember so clearly when I was at AT&T, and this was 100 years ago, but I was supporting the recruiting for one of the sales organizations, and they were hiring some very complex solution consultants. And the leader of that group was a big football fan. And he called me and he's like, Rachel, I want to administer the Wonderlic test to all of the candidates. And I didn't know anything about it, but he explained to me what the Wonderlic was. And apparently, for those of you who also don't know what the Wonderlic is, it's an assessment that they give to football players that assess their ability to think on their feet. So it's computing numbers in your head, calculating things, quick analysis. And so I went to the IO psychologist, the industrial organizational psychologist at AT&T. They had a whole team of these PhDs. His name is Seth Zimmer. And he said to me, no way. And he explained to me why, because that test was not validated to predict somebody's success in the jobs that we had. So when you are assessing whether somebody is
I'm sorry I'm
qualified,
calling him a guy, but why did the guy say, I want to do this? Like, what did he see that thought it would be impactful versus the guy that said, oh, there's no real data or whatever he said about it? Like,
so he wanted an objective way to assess whether somebody was going to be successful in the job, right? He was thinking, hey, we have salespeople that are out there in the field. We want them to think on their feet. We want them to be able to calculate these complex deals and configurations. And if this Wonderlic can do this for football players, this can do this for my salespeople. Now, it's very, very common for hiring managers to want to have something objective because then part of it, you sort of share the burden of making a good hiring decision, right? It's not just that, oh, I thought this person would be great, and then they flame out, it's my fault. But it's, we actually did this assessment, and the assessment said that they would be awesome. Well, maybe they didn't turn out to be, but, these things happen. So sometimes these types of assessments are used as crutches during hiring decisions. But bottom line, if you ask any organizational psychologist, they will tell you that any test that you give to somebody to determine to predict their success in the role has to be statistically significant. So basically, you need to identify for the specific job, what are the parameters for success? And then is this test assessing for those parameters? And then how do you know that it's assessing them accurately? You need like these giant samples and a representative group.
Isn't that over-engineering a little bit, Rachel? Come on.
Well,
that was a lot.
it makes
That was
it
a lot of words.
Yeah, but it also makes sure that we're making fair decisions and we're not making decisions based on our gut, which is famously biased, right? So anyway, we did not use the Wonderlic for that. And fun
it
fact,
sounds like it would have been cool to try it, though. Did you try it on each other for internal job placement, or no? You couldn't even do that.
No, we didn't do that. But it's funny because I met Seth in person for the first time. Gosh, about like 2 or 3 years ago, I was at this conference and he was there and I went over to him and I'm like, you probably don't remember me, but you didn't let me use the Wonderlic. And this happened, this was probably, I don't know, 2009. Like that's how long ago it was. But anyway, for strengths, Stryker does have a different version of the tool that is validated for hiring, and they focus on talent themes. And it's based on who is proven to be successful in these specific roles. And there's competencies and all of that, right? To make sure that we're not unintentionally discriminating against people for whatever. But the strengths, it does give you a real understanding. When you have a shared vocabulary, then you don't, again, have to guess. So I think I've talked about Gail, my friend Gail Manley. She and I worked together at Fidelity. She's wonderful. She lives in Cincinnati, and she's a big proponent of the Myers-Briggs type indicator, MBTI, which you'll hear people say they're an INTJ or an ENTF or that. So that's a different one. It is a little bit controversial. There are some. Yeah, I actually pulled it up because I knew you would ask me that.
Of course. Oh, you should have been a Boy Scout. Always prepared.
Right? Where is it?
I was an ENTJ.
So I am an INTP. INTP, which is funny because nobody believes me when I tell them I'm an introvert. But really I am. I'm outgoing, I'm confident, but
Yeah.
I don't get
All
energy
that,
out
look,
of
we and I have talked
being
about
out there
this,
all the time.
but for the crowd, it just means where you draw your power. I
Yeah.
need solitude to recharge. I don't need
Hmm.
a group of people. It just drains me.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
out there all the time. I publicly speak. Look at us putting this out
Yeah.
here. I mean, it's hard to put yourself on the internet and then there's your face and your voice. But I
Yeah.
need quiet. I need,
Yes.
and I love my wife, but she and I, some of our best times together, are just sitting together silently because she's
Yeah.
the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. So Gail loves the MBTI. People like Adam Grant really don't like it that much. Again, a lot of these are controversial. A lot of people sort of like some versus others. But what Gail would do, and she's been at Fidelity for more than 25 years. And every time she got a new boss, because you know how often there are reorganizations at some of these big companies,
Yes.
she had an about me slide and she would share that with her new
Yeah.
boss.
Right.
And it would include her type indicator. And she would say, this is who I am. And this is how I work best. And this is how I like to communicate. And these are some things that I'm really great at. And here are some things that I'm working on because you skip the games, right? And so, for example, my top five, and it's interesting because your top five really don't change over time, according to Gallup, because we pretty much are who we are, by the time our brains are fully formed, which is usually around 25 years old. But mine have shifted a little bit over the
For
past few
women,
years.
for women,
For women, is
men are
that
much
it?
longer.
Okay. I guess everyone's different. But mine have shifted a little bit as my jobs changed. So I did Gallup Strengths for the first in 2020, and then I did it again in 2022. And they shifted a little bit. There are some that I'm way down. So, for example, context is way down there for me because I'm more futuristic. So I tend to think forward, right? That's why we kind of balance each other out on a lot of things. A few other things that are way low on my list is woo. Do you know about woo?
Yes. I made jokes
So
about that all the time. I think woo is like second to last on my list.
right. So woo is number 27 for me. Woo, for those of you who don't know what that is, it's winning others over, which is woo. And very often people who are in salesy type roles have woo way at the top. And people who have a lot of woo want everyone to like them. They always want to be good with people. So they may not ruffle feathers. And so they might act in certain ways because they want everyone to like them.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
Patrick and I don't have that problem.
No.
um,
God, it's
so
so bad we laugh about that.
did you know that competition is really low down for me?
I'm actually surprised about that.
I'm really not
I'm not saying
competitive.
you're like aggressively
Mhm.
competitive or you hunt like that, but you like to climb. I don't mean the ladder.
Yeah,
I mean you want to get things done. You want to. It's
but I'm
interesting.
competitive with myself, not with others,
Interesting.
right? It's interesting. The other thing that was surprising to me was empathy is really low for me. I think for
I
you
want to
also, right?
interject. Yes, my empathy scores are really embarrassing. But that just means it doesn't mean you don't care, everybody, about
No,
other people.
no.
It just means I cannot easily, or maybe at all, put myself in Rachel's shoes. I don't know what it's like to be her. Like all the things. And it could be anybody. I couldn't do that with my wife. I have trouble empathizing with what someone's going through. That's what that really means. It doesn't mean I don't care. I love my wife. And it hurts me when she's having trouble or when Rachel's having trouble. I take it personal. Like when her son was in Israel and missiles are flying and he's running into bunkers and she's holding herself together. I'm sorry to talk about this out loud to the universe, Rachel, but I'm going to. Like that's got to be hard for any mom. But now I'm right next to her in person or we're on camera. I know that's got to be hard. She's a badass, so she keeps it together, but it's hard. But I don't know what that's like. I can't empathize with that, if that makes sense.
It's interesting because I also thought that that's what empathy meant. And when I saw that empathy was like number 20 for me, I actually asked the person at Gallup, I'm like, I'm so surprised. I always considered myself a very empathetic person. I can generally understand, I can put myself in other people's shoes, I can relate to people. And that's so much of what I've done for work, right? Being in HR. And I said, well, did it sort of erode just because I've been in HR for so long? And
Please tell me
so,
the answer. What was it?
and this is a person who had been at Gallup for decades. I was in their Omaha, Nebraska headquarters doing a full 2-day intensive on this. And she said to me, she said, empathy in Gallup speak is that She says, because you're really low in empathy, that doesn't mean that you can't share someone's pain. You can't imagine what they're going through. You can't help them. She says, it means that it doesn't stick with you and take over your mind and your brain and your own emotions, right? So what that means is that if you're going through a hard time, I'm with you. I feel you. I'm going to do whatever it takes to be supportive, but it's not going to put a cloud on the rest of my day because it's not my pain. It's still your pain, which I think actually is kind of healthy,
It's
right?
a superpower.
So I don't
you
know
don't
if
get
it's
stuck.
it's not, it's a compartmentalization, I think.
And thank
So those
God.
are a few, well, so those are a few that I'm more low on. A few that, some of them are strengths, but they can also go both ways. Like my number one, do you know what my number one is?
Tell me.
Strategic.
Oh, I totally get that. Damn, I can't believe
Right?
I didn't try harder and guess
But
at that. You're
but
so
with that
strategic.
one, but with that one means, so people like to say, "Oh, I'm so strategic," right? It means you're like, I don't know, you run strategy at your organization, see big picture. But in Gallup language, what it means is I've got 3 scenarios running at the same time.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I
I
can
knew
always
what it
see
meant. Yeah.
multiple different. Yeah. Now, sometimes that could be really annoying because sometimes people are like, "No, pick one," right?
Yeah.
But
Look, I call that multi-processing. Being a
yes,
multi-processor, I wish more people were.
but you can't have everyone like that,
I didn't say I
right? You
want
need to,
everyone. I said
right.
more. I wish
Mm,
more people were, because it would make everyone's life slightly easier, or to your point, maybe slightly harder. But
or maybe harder.
just my seat. I'm one man in a universe of voices. I got it. But
But knowing about it
no,
and being
yeah,
able to explain it, like, and then my next 2, so my next one is activator, which
oh,
I think you share,
it's perfect sense. Yeah, you're right. It's in my top 5.
right?
Yes, yes.
And so
It's the
activator
fourth or
means
fifth. I
that,
can't remember ever. It's activator.
so
Yeah.
that it's number 2 for me. It means like once everyone's made a decision or once you know what you wanna do, you just should get started, right? It's a bias towards action, but it might mean that Patrick or I are ready to get started before all the ducks are lined up, and for some other people, maybe people who are more deliberative might get rattled by that. They're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, we're not ready. Don't start yet. Start next week, or we have to have this meeting first." So that can be disruptive.
You know what's a great exercise for all of this? And in the world, and we're hybrid. I mean, everybody. There's an office in Dallas. There's an office in New York that people visit.
Mm.
There's an office in Miami that people visit. Yada yada. But for the most part, we're work from home, so it's kind of hard to do some of this stuff remotely. And by the way, we've all gotten really good at it. Like COVID was like a
Mhm.
primer. This has been the PhD. Checkout's been
Yeah.
the PhD of remote leadership and growth and running a business. But when I ran the leadership programs at US Bank with Linda Wesley and Jamie Callery, ladies, I know you listen to this. Hello. I would do a segment when we were together. And this was for like VPs and SVPs of the bank to prime them for banking school. It didn't start that way, but we kind of ended up making that the top of the class would go to banking school. We got the bank to buy into that. Anyway, in the room, I would make everybody stand up and I had a piece of paper with descriptions. I didn't tell them what it was. I would say, if you resonate with this word, if the word resonates with your behaviors, with how you feel about you, go to this corner. And then I'd read the next corner's words. And I'd read all 4 corners and say, all right, I'm going to read them again. Whatever word resonates with you, go to that corner. Because I would have the piece of paper and that was in quadrants, right? Everybody saw it, but they couldn't read the words because it was small, right? And they would go to their corners. And there was 5 words per corner. And then you start talking about, okay, now work together. And it was so interesting at the bank, like the financial acumen corner. And I'm for the sake of this podcast, we're going really high level here. And I'm actually going to put the document in the thing for the producer to share with everybody. Everybody should look at this document. The bank was heavy process.
Of
People
course.
who like process. It wasn't a bunch of strategic people. There was a few. There'd always be, but it didn't. I ran this program with those ladies for 11 years, Rachel. So I got 11 years of doing this there'd be 40, 50 people in the program each year. So you guys can do the math on that over what 11 years looks like of what I'm talking about. But the strategic corner always had 2 to 5 people in it. And the process build walls corner, I don't mean build walls to keep people out. Just process helps me. Process was filled 25, 30 people
Yeah.
every year. It's like, so it's almost like and what would it look like if that was a John Deere tractor? What would that look like if it was Google? What would that, you know what I'm saying? And US Bank was in all 50 states. Like these people came from all over. Some of them didn't know each other, but they'd been on calls with each other, but never met face to face. And this was before video calls, everybody. It was conference call on the Polycom. So you never saw each other's faces. And now they're together in a room. They're like, oh, and it would be funny because people, oh, you are those words. That makes perfect sense, even though they've never met each other. Like there's a lot of fun that you could have exploring who you are and showing others who you are and why you do the things you do. Like that's why I ask people to put their strengths up on their cubes and then in their offices. And you should be proud of who you are, by the way. There are no right or wrong there. It's just who you are. Now, how do you do these very complicated things like build a tractor, execute a mission to Mars? Look at this thing going on with Artemis 2 right now. It's beyond cool. Now, I'm going to quick off ramp. Bear with me. The moon is actually falling to them. They're not going to the moon. They're going to a point in time where the moon will meet them. They're not going to the moon, guys. The math is what's bringing them together. Because the universe is moving at 18,000 miles an hour, Rachel. It's so whack. And you got the Space Coast in Florida, Cape Canaveral. You've got Houston, Texas, where command is. There's things going on at NORAD. There's things going on outside of Phoenix. Like you've got thousands of people throwing 4 people in a capsule towards a point in time to meet the moon and go around it as it's going by. And they're actually not flying there. They're falling towards it. So you've got all these people. Some of them never met each other. Multiple vendors. Like if you track, like my daughter, Rachel's met Berkeley over video. And if you guys listen to the pod, interviewed Berkeley at one point, she's a part of this program. And the rocket boosters that shot the thing up into the atmosphere were Northrop Grumman equipment. And then Lockheed Martin built the capsule they're in. Like all these defense companies all put pieces together to make this work with NASA and space. I mean, what we do with the moon to get people in space is mind-blowing. You don't think these people need to know each other's strengths and what makes them tick? How many blowups happen on conference calls or video calls trying to do the math on this thing, or the pressure cooker of keeping these 4 amazing human beings alive through space and solve all these problems on the fly? It's not an accident. I think the best teams, whether you're hurdling 4 people through space or you're building a John Deere tractor, I don't know why I'm picking on John Deere so much today, but whatever that is, you should know a little bit about each other. I think strengths is a perfect place to start. And we should put the link to go get the book. I think it's like $19. It's not a lot in terms of figuring out who you are, or whatever the online assessments are that you could do for free if you don't want to spend the money. Start taking a journey of understanding who you are. And Rachel, you need to talk about your trip to Germany.
Oh, so I've, since I was introduced to strengths, this is going back 6 years, I've always been just fascinated by it. And I want to learn more about how to help other people understand their strengths, right? I've digested mine and considered how my strengths might work with some other people. But Gallup offers a certification where you could become licensed to administer and interpret these assessments for other people and run all kinds of activities that they call team blends and help the spreadsheet that Patrick talked about. If you've got a team and you know your team member strengths, to be able to map them out or plot them out on a chart and help people understand how that might, how different people's strengths and the interaction between strengths might play different roles, good or bad, in day-to-day work. So it's something I've always wanted to do. And I decided to invest in myself and take the course. And so they have a virtual option, which was not super appealing to me because it's 5 days and it's 9 to 5. And it's just, I spend enough time on Zoom. If I'm going to do it, I want to do it in a room and really get the full experience. And so rather than go to Omaha, Nebraska, or Washington, D.C., or Chicago, I decided to check out their global options because I thought, how fascinating could it be to participate in this experience with people from all over the world and really get an understanding of how culture and how geography factors in here. So I will be traveling to Berlin to participate in the course, and I hopefully will become certified as a strengths coach. So
hopefully I'll become certified. You would probably run the damn
of
thing.
course I
You're
will.
so funny.
Well, I
Of course you'll
will,
be certified.
yeah, so there's a test, there's a few different assessments that I'll have to administer, but
So
let's
we're gonna
regroup in a
one
couple
of
months.
the next month's series of podcasts needs to be about
Mhm.
your experience there.
Okay, we'll talk
I
about it,
can't wait to hear about it.
yeah, I'll be able to work with people, and teams inside our company, outside our company, and help everyone understand themselves a little bit more.
That's right.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Go live a strength-based life, everybody, from a leadership perspective. Personally, my last piece for some action for everybody. I'll send the producers the link. Watch Trombone Player Wanted.
Hmm.
The Marcus.
Buckingham.
Thank you. I knew she'd know it. I think he's the father of StrengthsFinders, is he not?
He is. I think they had a little bit of a conflict. It's,
Oh, they did.
Clifton. Yeah.
So he
Clifton
left and
Strengths,
created his
right?
own thing. I don't know where he's at now. I'm dating
Mm.
myself a little bit, but Trombone Player Wanted. I want to say it's 10 videos, 10
They're on YouTube. You
segments.
can find them on YouTube.
I always played the first one for the leadership classes for my own team. Just go watch it, everybody. Like, be proud of what your strengths are, because very few people get to play to their strengths every day. We don't all get jobs where our top 5 or whatever strengths align with what we do for a profession, and that could be exhausting. If you're lucky or fortunate enough to be able to align your strengths with your profession, God bless you. Good. But for the rest of us, sometimes you got to work your way towards it. And so watch Trombone, watch all 10 or 8, whatever it is. But the first one, I think, is the most impactful. So I'm going to send that link as well. Everyone's going to get lots of links from these couple of podcasts we've done. But I think it's important that you do it. And I'm certainly passionate about it. And Rachel, have a very safe trip to Berlin.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to Leadership and Motivation Unleashed. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a rating and review. It only takes 1 minute and it helps the show grow and reach more leaders like you in search of advice and motivation.
Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Please remember to share with your friends and family and coworkers, mentors, trusted advisors. This show is for everybody. See you next time.